What if I told you that the greatest power you possess isn't found in your circumstances, in your bank account, or in what others think of you, but rather lies dormant within your own mind, waiting to be awakened? What if poverty and suffering aren't permanent conditions but temporary states that exist only because we haven't yet discovered the magnificent force that resides in our thoughts, our character, and our will? James Allen's timeless masterpiece, From Poverty to Power, reveals a truth so profound, so life-changing, that once you grasp it, you'll never see yourself or your world the same way again. This isn't just another self-help book. This is a blueprint for complete personal transformation, a roadmap from limitation to abundance, from weakness to strength, from despair to unshakable inner peace. And I'm going to take you through every profound insight, every transformative principle, every life-changing teaching contained in this remarkable work, so that by the end of this deep exploration, you'll have everything you need to begin your own journey from poverty to power. James Allen understood something that most people spend their entire lives never discovering: that we are not victims of our circumstances but creators of our reality through the power of our thoughts. Born in 1864, Allen lived through tremendous personal hardship, including the murder of his father when James was just 15 years old, an event that plunged his family into poverty and forced him to leave school and work in factories to support his mother and siblings. Yet from these ashes of desperation, from this crucible of suffering and struggle, Allen forged a philosophy so powerful that it would inspire millions of people across generations, teaching them that true wealth has nothing to do with material possessions and everything to do with the sovereignty of one's inner world. His life became a testament to his teachings, proof that the principles he discovered and shared could lift anyone from any depth of circumstance to heights of inner peace and outer success. The book is divided into two essential parts: The Path to Prosperity and The Way of Peace, each offering profound insights into how we can transcend our current limitations and step into the fullness of our potential. But before we dive into these transformative sections, let me tell you that what Allen presents here isn't mere theory or speculation. It's a practical system based on universal spiritual laws that work with mathematical precision, whether you believe in them or not. These principles have lifted countless individuals from the depths of despair to heights of achievement and inner fulfillment, and they can do the same for you, starting right now, in this very moment. The beauty of Allen's teaching is its universality. It doesn't matter what your religious background is, what your education level is, where you come from, or how deep your current struggles might be. These principles work for anyone willing to apply them with sincerity and persistence. Allen begins with a fundamental premise that forms the bedrock of all personal transformation: the power of thought. He doesn't just suggest that thoughts are important. He declares with unwavering conviction that thought is the master key to every condition in life. Your thoughts are not random, inconsequential mental events. They are creative forces that shape your character, determine your circumstances, and ultimately decide your destiny. Every single thing you experience in your outer world is a direct reflection of your inner world of thought. If you want to change your life, you must first change your thinking, because as Allen so brilliantly states, you cannot travel within and stand still without. This is one of the most revolutionary statements in the entire book, because it establishes that internal change always precedes external change, that the journey inward is the only true journey that matters. Think about what this means for your life right now. Every relationship you're in, every financial situation you're experiencing, every health condition you're dealing with, every emotion you're feeling, all of it has been created by the patterns of thought you've been holding, perhaps unconsciously, perhaps for years or even decades. This isn't about blame, it's about power. If your thoughts created your current reality, then new thoughts can create a new reality. You're not stuck, you're not doomed, you're not a victim of fate. You are, right now in this moment, capable of beginning the transformation that will completely revolutionize your life. This principle alone, when truly understood and applied, has the power to revolutionize your entire existence. Think about that for a moment, really let it sink in. Everything you see in your life right now, your relationships, your health, your financial situation, your level of happiness. All of it has been created by the patterns of thought you've been holding in your mind, perhaps for years, perhaps for decades. The poverty you might be experiencing isn't just about money, it's poverty of thought, poverty of vision, poverty of belief. And here's the beautiful truth that Alan wants you to grasp. If thought created your current circumstances, then new thoughts can create entirely new circumstances. You are not imprisoned by your past, you are not limited by your current situation, you are only limited by your current thinking, and thinking can be changed. Alan explains that there are two primary types of thought patterns that people operate from, those rooted in selfishness, fear, and limitation, and those rooted in love, service, and abundance. The person who thinks predominantly selfish thoughts, who is always focused on what they can get rather than what they can give, who sees the world through the lens of scarcity and competition, this person creates a life of struggle, anxiety, and disappointment. Their thoughts act like magnets, attracting circumstances and people that mirror their internal state of lack and separation. They might work incredibly hard, they might scheme and manipulate, they might use every trick they know, but lasting success and genuine happiness always elude them because the foundation of their thinking is corrupt. The seed they're planting is diseased, and no amount of effort can make a poisoned seed produce healthy fruit. On the other hand, the person who cultivates thoughts of kindness, generosity, courage, and faith, who sees abundance rather than scarcity, who looks for ways to serve rather than ways to take, this person taps into a completely different set of universal laws. They begin to attract opportunities, people, and resources that align with their elevated state of consciousness. This isn't mysticism or wishful thinking, it's the natural operation of cause and effect in the mental and spiritual realm. You've probably seen this in your own life. When you're in a positive, generous state of mind, good things seem to flow to you effortlessly, opportunities appear, people are kind, resources show up. But when you're stuck in negativity and self-pity, everything becomes a struggle, doors close, people are difficult, nothing works out. This isn't coincidence, it's law, it's the universe responding to the signal you're broadcasting through your thoughts. Alan emphasizes that this transformation of thought isn't something that happens overnight through mere intellectual understanding. It requires what he calls self-discipline and purification of thought. You must become like a gardener tending your mental garden, carefully cultivating the flowers of positive, constructive thoughts while ruthlessly weeding out the destructive patterns that have been choking your potential. This means watching your thoughts constantly, catching yourself when you slip into old patterns of fear, resentment, or limitation, and consciously choosing to redirect your mental energy toward thoughts that empower and uplift you. It means developing what might be called thought awareness, the ability to step back and observe your own thinking patterns, to notice when you're spiraling into negativity, to recognize when you're repeating old stories that no longer serve you. Many people fail in this practice because they give up too soon. They try thinking positively for a few days or weeks, they don't see immediate dramatic results, and they conclude that it doesn't work. But Alan makes it clear that you're not just changing surface thoughts, you're transforming the deep-seated beliefs and assumptions that have been programmed into your subconscious mind over years and years of conditioning. This requires patience, persistence, and unwavering commitment. You must persist in right thinking even when circumstances haven't yet changed, trusting that the inner work you're doing will inevitably manifest in your outer world. It's like turning a massive ship. You turn the wheel, but it takes time for the ship's direction to change. The larger the ship, the longer the turn takes. But the wheel turn always eventually results in a change of direction. The second major principle Alan introduces is the concept that our circumstances don't make us, they reveal us. This is absolutely crucial to understand, and it might be one of the most challenging teachings in the entire book to fully accept. When faced with difficulty, poverty, or hardship, most people blame their circumstances. They blame the economy, they blame their upbringing, they blame their parents, they blame their boss, they blame the government, they blame other people, They blame bad luck. They blame everything except their own thinking. But Alan flips this completely on its head. He shows that our circumstances are actually perfect mirrors reflecting back to us our own inner state. If you're experiencing poverty, it's because somewhere in your consciousness you're harboring thoughts of lack, unworthiness, or limitation. If you're experiencing conflict in relationships, it's because you're carrying internal discord and unresolved emotional patterns. If you're experiencing health problems, it's often because you're maintaining patterns of stress, worry, or resentment. This might sound harsh at first. It might even make you angry or defensive. But it's actually the most empowering message you could possibly receive. If circumstances controlled your life, if they were just random events happening to you for no reason, you'd be helpless, a victim with no power to change anything, a leaf blown about by forces beyond your control. But if circumstances are reflecting your thoughts, if they're showing you the results of your inner state, then you have complete power to transform your life by transforming your inner world. You're not at the mercy of external conditions. You're the master of your destiny, the captain of your soul, the architect of your experience. This shift from victim consciousness to creator consciousness is perhaps the single most important transformation anyone can make. Alan shares that every person attracts to themselves people and circumstances that are in harmony with their predominant thoughts and character traits. If you're dishonest in your thinking, if you're constantly looking for ways to cheat or cut corners, you'll attract dishonest people and situations where you're deceived and taken advantage of. If you're fearful and anxious, constantly worrying about everything that could go wrong, you'll attract things to be afraid of, circumstances that validate your fear. If you're angry and resentful, carrying grudges and bitterness, you'll attract conflict and difficult people. But if you're loving and trusting, maintaining faith and goodwill, you'll attract love and trustworthy people. This doesn't mean that challenging situations won't arise. Life tests everyone. But it means that the general tenor and quality of your life experience is determined by the general tenor and quality of your thoughts. He uses the powerful metaphor of a person trying to remove poverty from their life while continuing to think poverty thoughts. It's like trying to remove darkness from a room while refusing to open the curtains or light a lamp. Darkness isn't a thing in itself. It's merely the absence of light. It has no substance, no reality of its own. Similarly, poverty isn't overcome by focusing on the poverty, by complaining about it, by fighting against it, by resenting it. Poverty is overcome by filling your mind with thoughts of abundance, capability, service, and value. When you do this consistently, when you maintain prosperity consciousness even while circumstances are still showing poverty, poverty must inevitably dissolve because you've removed the mental conditions that were creating it. You've stopped feeding it with your attention and energy. Now let's explore what Alan calls the secret of health. And this section is absolutely fascinating because he understood something that modern science is only now beginning to fully appreciate through fields like psychoneuroimmunology, that there is an inseparable connection between the mind and the body. Your thoughts don't just affect your circumstances, they directly impact your physical health and vitality. When you harbor thoughts of worry, anxiety, fear, resentment, or anger, you're literally poisoning your body. These toxic thoughts create tension in your muscles. They trigger stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. They weaken your immune system. They disrupt your sleep. They interfere with digestion and nutrient absorption. And they create the conditions for disease to take hold and flourish in your body. Alan observed, through careful study of himself and others, that many people who are sick are actually sick because of their thinking. They worry themselves into illness. They stress themselves into exhaustion. They hold grudges that eat away at them from the inside like acid. They maintain fear that keeps their nervous system in constant fight or flight mode. And then they seek external remedies, pills and treatments and surgeries, while continuing to feed the mental patterns that created the illness in the first place. It's like bailing water out of a boat while leaving the hole unplugged. You might get temporary relief. You might see some improvement. But the fundamental problem remains, and eventually the boat fills with water again. The path to vibrant health, Alan teaches, begins with peaceful, harmonious thoughts. When you cultivate serenity, when you practice forgiveness and let go of resentment, when you release anxiety and embrace trust, when you fill your mind with thoughts of vitality and wellness and gratitude, you create the internal conditions for health to flourish naturally. Your body is incredibly intelligent, far more intelligent than your conscious mind, and it has natural healing abilities that are constantly working to maintain balance and health. But these abilities function best when they're not being sabotaged and undermined by destructive thought patterns. When you give your body the gift of a peaceful mind, you unleash its innate healing wisdom. This doesn't mean you should ignore physical care of your body or refuse medical treatment when needed. Alan isn't suggesting that all illness is purely mental or that positive thinking alone will cure every condition. That would be naive and potentially dangerous. What he's saying is that your mental state is a crucial, often overlooked component of health, and that by addressing your thought life, by cleaning up your mental and emotional patterns, you remove one of the primary obstacles to wellness. Many people have experienced remarkable healing when they addressed the emotional and mental roots of their conditions, when they forgave those who hurt them, when they released chronic worry, when they made peace with their past and their present. Alan also discusses the importance of developing what he calls divine centeredness, a state where you're not constantly buffeted by every external wind, where you maintain inner stability regardless of outer turbulence. Most people live their entire lives as reactionary beings, their moods and states completely determined by what's happening around them. If things go well, they're up. If things go poorly, they're down. If someone praises them, they feel good. If someone criticizes them, they feel terrible. If they get what they want, they're happy. If they don't, they're miserable. They're like leaves blown about by every passing breeze, with no center, no anchor, no stability. Their sense of self is entirely dependent on external validation and circumstances. The truly powerful person, the person who has mastered themselves, has found an inner center that remains unmoved by external circumstances. They've discovered that peace, joy, and strength are not things to be pursued in the outer world but qualities to be cultivated in the inner world. When you operate from this divine center, you don't need circumstances to be a certain way in order to be okay. You're okay regardless. You don't need people's approval to feel worthy. You're already worthy, inherently, as a human being, as consciousness itself. You don't need to wait for some future achievement to be happy. You're happy now, in this present moment, because happiness is your natural state when you're not disturbing it with negative thinking. This is what Alan means by moving from poverty to power. Poverty isn't just lack of money, it's lack of inner resources, lack of peace, lack of self-mastery, lack of vision, lack of connection to your true self. Power isn't domination over others or accumulation of possessions or having people fear you. It's mastery over yourself, control of your thoughts, cultivation of your character, and alignment with universal principles. When you achieve this kind of power, material prosperity often follows naturally as a byproduct. But even if it doesn't, even if you remain materially modest, you're already rich because you possess something far more valuable than money. You possess yourself. You possess peace. You possess freedom from the tyranny of circumstances and opinions. Alan dedicates significant attention to the principle of giving and service as the pathway to true prosperity. And this section challenges everything our selfish nature wants to believe. This flies in the face of everything our culture teaches us, everything we see in the media, everything our ego wants us to believe. We want to hoard, to protect, to accumulate, to get as much as we can for ourselves, to build bigger barns to store all our goods. But Alan reveals that this is actually the poverty mentality, and it creates more poverty, more lack, more limitation. The prosperity mentality operates on a completely different principle, the principle of circulation, contribution, and adding value to the world. He explains that the universe operates on the law of giving. You can see this everywhere in nature if you look. Nature gives continuously, without thought of return, without keeping score. The sun gives light and warmth to all without discrimination, asking nothing in return. The earth gives food and minerals and beauty. The trees give fruit and oxygen and shade. The rivers give water. Everything in nature is constantly giving. And through this giving, through this constant outpouring and circulation, life flourishes and abundance is created. When you align yourself with this law and become a giver rather than a taker, when you focus on what you can contribute rather than what you can extract, when you ask yourself how you can serve rather than how you can be served, you tap into the very source of abundance. You become a channel through which universal prosperity flows. This doesn't mean giving until you have nothing left or letting people take advantage of you or becoming a doormat. Alan is talking about a mindset shift, a fundamental reorientation of how you see yourself in relation to the world. Instead of seeing yourself as a separate individual fighting against everyone else for limited resources, you see yourself as a conduit through which good flows, as an instrument of service, as a creator of value. When you give value, when you help others, when you contribute to the world around you, when you make other people's lives better, you set in motion forces that ensure a return flow to you. It might not come from the person you helped, it might not come in the form you expect, it might not come on your timeline, but it will come, because you've aligned yourself with the law of circulation, the law of reciprocity. Many people who struggle financially are actually operating from a taking mentality without even realizing it. They're always thinking about what they can get, what's in it for them, how they can pay less and receive more, how they can extract maximum value while giving minimum effort. And then they wonder why prosperity eludes them, why opportunities don't come, why their business doesn't grow, why they can't get ahead. Alan would tell them that they're violating a fundamental law, swimming against the current of universal principle. And until they shift to a giving mentality, until they focus on creating value and serving others, they'll continue to struggle no matter how hard they work or how clever they are. The most successful people in any field are those who provide the most value to others. Success is simply a byproduct of service. Prosperity is the natural result of contribution. Alan also addresses the crucial role of patience and perseverance. And this is where so many people fail, where so many promising starts end in discouragement and defeat. They learn these principles, they get excited, they start applying them with enthusiasm, but then when results don't come immediately, when they don't see dramatic changes within days or weeks, they give up and go back to their old ways, concluding that it doesn't work, that it's just more positive thinking nonsense. They're like the farmer who plants seeds, then digs them up a few days later to see if they're growing, destroying the very crop they're trying to cultivate with their impatience. There is a gestation period between planting and harvest, between cause and effect, between thought and manifestation. When you plant an acorn, you don't get an oak tree the next day, or the next week, or even the next month. The seed must go through an invisible process underground, in the darkness, where nothing seems to be happening, before the visible sprout appears above the soil. Similarly, when you begin thinking new thoughts, implementing new principles, transforming your character, there's a period where nothing seems to be happening on the surface. This is the testing time, the time when most people give up, the time when your commitment is proven or disproven. This is when you must have faith, not blind faith, but faith based on understanding that universal laws work with precision even when you can't yet see the results. But Alan urges you to persist, to keep going even when you can't see progress, even when circumstances seem to contradict your new thinking. Keep thinking right thoughts even when circumstances haven't changed yet. Keep acting with integrity even when it seems to cost you. Keep giving even when you haven't received. Keep believing even when you can't yet see. Keep maintaining prosperity consciousness even while still experiencing poverty. This persistent, patient application of universal principles is what separates those who transform their lives from those who merely read about transformation, those who talk about change from those who actually change. The principles work. They work every single time without exception, but they require sustained effort over time, not just temporary enthusiasm, not just a weekend workshop high that fades by Monday morning. He uses powerful language about becoming what he calls a spiritual warrior, someone who has trained themselves through discipline and practice to maintain right thoughts and right actions regardless of external pressures or internal impulses. Just as a physical warrior trains their body to be strong and skilled through countless hours of practice and conditioning, the spiritual warrior trains their mind and character through constant vigilance and deliberate choice. They practice honesty even when lies would be easier and more profitable. They practice generosity even when they feel lack and want to hoard. They practice courage even when they feel afraid and want to run. They practice love even when they feel hurt and want to close their heart. Through this constant practice, through this daily training, they forge an unshakable character that becomes the foundation for all lasting success and happiness. The concept of vision is another essential element Alan explores in depth, and this teaching has profound implications for how you approach your life and your future. He distinguishes between those who drift through life without clear direction, without knowing where they're going or why, and those who hold a definite vision of who they want to become and what they want to create. The person without vision is like a ship without a rudder, pushed about by every wind and current, drifting with the tide, never arriving anywhere meaningful or significant. They might work hard, they might be busy, they might fill their days with activity, but they're not progressing toward anything specific because they haven't decided what they're progressing toward. They haven't defined what success looks like for them. The person with vision, however, has defined what Alan calls their ideal. They've imagined clearly and vividly the person they want to become, the life they want to create, the contribution they want to make to the world. This vision becomes like a magnetic North Star, pulling them forward through challenges, giving meaning to their efforts and sacrifices, helping them make decisions that align with their ultimate goal, energizing them through difficulties and setbacks. When you have a compelling vision, you have a reason to get up in the morning with enthusiasm, a reason to overcome obstacles instead of being defeated by them, a reason to persist when others quit and give up. But Alan warns that vision must be combined with present action, with doing what's in front of you right now. Some people get stuck in endless dreaming and planning without ever doing anything, without ever taking that first step, without ever risking failure. They have beautiful visions but they never take action, never move from imagination to implementation. Vision without action is just fantasy, just wishful thinking, just another form of escape from the present moment. The powerful person holds the vision in their mind while taking concrete steps in the present moment toward that vision. They work where they are with what they have, knowing that each right action, no matter how small it might seem, is moving them toward their ideal, is building momentum, is creating pathways. He emphasizes that you don't need to see the entire staircase to take the first step. You don't need a complete roadmap before beginning the journey. You don't need to know exactly how you'll get from where you are to where you want to be. You don't need all the answers before you start. You just need clarity about the direction you're heading and willingness to take the next right action that's in front of you right now. As you do this, as you combine clear vision with present faithfulness, something miraculous happens. Opportunities appear that you couldn't have predicted or planned for. Help comes from unexpected sources. Resources materialize when you need them. The path unfolds before you one step at a time. But if you wait until you can see the whole path, until you have everything figured out, until all conditions are perfect before taking the first step, you'll wait forever, because that level of certainty never comes. Alan's teachings on work and vocation are particularly relevant and powerful in today's world where so many people feel trapped in jobs they hate, working only for a paycheck, suffering through each day, counting down the hours until the weekend, living for Friday and dreading Monday. He teaches that this is a form of self-imposed poverty, a kind of spiritual death, regardless of how much money you might be making, regardless of how impressive your title might be. When you do work you despise, when you give your time and energy to something you have no passion for, when you live for the weekend and view work as something to endure rather than enjoy, You're wasting the precious gift of your life. You're selling your days for money and getting a terrible bargain. True prosperity includes loving your work, finding meaning and purpose in how you spend your days, feeling that what you do matters and contributes something valuable. This doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job tomorrow and following some dream, although for some people it might mean exactly that. It often means bringing a new attitude to your current work, seeing it with new eyes, finding purpose in it that you hadn't seen before. It means seeing your current position as an opportunity to develop character, to practice principles, to serve others, to learn and grow. When you stop resenting your work and start seeing it as your current training ground, as the universe's current assignment for you, everything shifts, even if the work itself hasn't changed. Alan suggests that as you develop this new relationship with work, as you give your best regardless of the task, as you serve faithfully where you are rather than constantly wishing you were somewhere else, one of two things will happen. You'll either grow to love what you're doing, finding meaning and satisfaction you didn't see before, or you'll be led to something more aligned with your purpose and passion. Opportunities will open up, doors will appear that weren't there before. But the key is to start where you are, to be faithful with what's in front of you. Don't wait until you have your dream job to give your best. Give your best now, right where you are, and watch how your circumstances begin to change in response to your changed inner state. The section on overcoming failure and using obstacles is incredibly encouraging and empowering, and it's a message everyone needs to hear. Alan acknowledges that everyone faces setbacks, defeats, and disappointments. These are not signs that the principles don't work or that you're doing something wrong or that you're not good enough. They're actually essential parts of the growth process, necessary stages in your development. Every obstacle is an opportunity to develop strength, to discover resources within yourself you didn't know you had. Every failure is a lesson teaching you what doesn't work so you can discover what does work, eliminating approaches that won't succeed. Every setback is a setup for a comeback if you use it correctly, if you extract the lesson and refuse to be defeated. The difference between those who eventually succeed and those who remain defeated isn't that successful people don't face obstacles. Everyone faces obstacles. Life is full of challenges and difficulties. The difference is that successful people interpret obstacles differently. They give them a different meaning. They see challenges as tests of their resolve rather than as evidence of their inadequacy. They extract the lesson from every failure rather than wallowing in self-pity and victimhood. They persist through temporary defeat because they're committed to their vision and they trust that success is a process, not an event, a journey, not a destination, something that's built through many attempts and iterations. Alan encourages you to welcome difficulties as opportunities for growth, as your teachers, as gifts even though they don't look or feel like gifts in the moment. When you face a challenge, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" with a victim mentality, ask, "What is this teaching me? How is this making me stronger? What quality do I need to develop to overcome this? What is this preparing me for?" This shift in perspective, this reframing, transforms obstacles from enemies into teachers, from blocks into building materials, from problems into opportunities. The very thing that seems to be stopping you, the thing that looks like your greatest obstacle, might actually be preparing you for the success you desire, developing in you the qualities you'll need to handle that success. He shares profound insights about the nature of true success, and this is so important because most people are chasing a definition of success that will never satisfy them even if they achieve it. In Alan's view, success isn't primarily about external achievements, although those often follow inner development naturally. Success is becoming the person you're capable of becoming, living with integrity and honor, developing your talents and abilities, contributing to others and making their lives better, and maintaining inner peace regardless of circumstances. You might have all the money and recognition in the world but be a failure if you've compromised your integrity to get it, if you've sacrificed your peace and happiness, if you've damaged your relationships and lost the people you love, if you hate yourself when you look in the mirror. Conversely, You might have modest material circumstances but be wildly successful if you've maintained your character and integrity, if you've treated others well and contributed value, if you've developed your potential and become who you're meant to be, if you're at peace with yourself and grateful for your life. Alan wants you to measure success by the right standards, by who you're becoming rather than just by what you're accumulating, by the quality of your character rather than the quantity of your possessions. When you get this right, when you focus on character development and service to others, when you prioritize being over having, material success often follows as a natural byproduct. But even if it doesn't, even if you remain materially modest, you haven't failed because you've achieved something far more valuable. You've achieved self-mastery and inner peace. The second major section of the book, The Way of Peace, takes you even deeper into spiritual truth and inner transformation. And this section is absolutely profound, life-changing if you really take it to heart. Alan begins by establishing that peace isn't something you find in perfect external circumstances. That's a futile search that will never end successfully. It's something you cultivate internally regardless of circumstances, regardless of what's happening around you. The search for peace through arranging your external world perfectly is doomed to failure because the external world is constantly changing, inherently unstable, full of things you can't control, and largely outside your complete control. You can't find lasting peace there no matter how much you manipulate and arrange and control. True peace is found by going within, by turning your attention inward, by discovering what Alan calls the divine center, the place of stillness and strength that exists beneath all the surface turbulence of life, beneath all the noise and chaos and drama. This isn't achieved through acquiring something you don't have but through removing the obstacles that prevent you from experiencing the peace that's already present within you. That's always been there, that's your natural state. It's like clearing the clouds to reveal the sun that was always shining behind them, or cleaning the dust off a mirror to reveal the reflection that was always there. What are these obstacles to peace? Alan identifies them clearly and specifically: selfish desires that keep you always wanting more, anxious thoughts that project terrible futures, resentment toward others that keeps you imprisoned in the past, resistance to what is that creates constant internal friction, attachment to outcomes that makes you dependent on things going your way, fear of the future that prevents you from enjoying the present, regret about the past that steals your current peace. These mental and emotional patterns keep you in constant agitation, always disturbed, never satisfied, perpetually at war with yourself and reality. As long as you maintain these patterns, peace will elude you no matter what you achieve externally, no matter how much success you have by worldly standards. The path to peace requires what Alan calls surrender, and this is often misunderstood. It needs to be clearly explained. Surrender doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive or letting people walk all over you or not taking action to improve your life. It means surrender of your ego's demand that life be different than it is, surrender of your insistence that things go your way, surrender of your need to control everything and everyone. When you stop fighting against reality, when you accept what is while still working to improve what can be improved, when you say yes to life even when life isn't saying yes to you, you discover a profound peace that exists independent of circumstances, a peace that doesn't require everything to be perfect. Alan teaches the practice of meditation and silence as essential tools for discovering this inner peace, for connecting with your deeper self. In meditation, you deliberately quiet your racing mind, you create space between your thoughts, you step back from your thoughts rather than being carried away by them like a leaf in a stream. You connect with the deeper awareness that is observing all your thoughts and feelings. This practice reveals something absolutely transformative, that you are not your thoughts, you are the consciousness in which thoughts appear. This realization alone can be tremendously liberating because it means you're not at the mercy of every random thought that passes through your mind. You're not identified with your thinking. You can choose which thoughts to follow and which to let go. Through regular meditation, through daily periods of silence and stillness, through withdrawing from the noise and distraction of the world to spend time in quiet contemplation, you strengthen this connection to your deeper self, to what Alan sometimes calls the divine or the infinite or the universal consciousness. You begin to experience yourself as something far greater than your personality, your circumstances, your history, your thoughts, your emotions. You tap into a source of wisdom, strength, and peace that doesn't depend on anything external. That's always available, that can never be taken from you. This becomes your foundation, your rock, the place you can always return to no matter what's happening in your life, your refuge and your strength. Alan emphasizes the importance of living in the present moment, and this teaching has become even more relevant in our modern age of constant distraction and overstimulation. So much suffering comes from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, from living anywhere except right here, right now. When you're mentally living in the past, replaying old hurts like broken records, regretting mistakes and wishing you'd done things differently, rehearsing old arguments and nursing old wounds, you're not really alive because the past is dead and gone. It no longer exists except as thoughts and memories in your mind, except as stories you tell yourself. When you're mentally living in the future, anxiously imagining all the things that could go wrong, trying to control outcomes that haven't happened yet, worrying about scenarios that may never occur, you're also not alive because the future hasn't arrived yet and may never arrive as you imagine it. And even if it does, you'll meet it in the present moment, not in the future. The only moment you actually have is right now, this present moment that you're in as you hear these words. This is where your power is, this is where your life is actually happening. This is where action can be taken, this is where peace can be found. When you bring your attention fully into the present moment, when you stop the mental time travel and anchor yourself in now, you often discover something surprising, that in this moment, right now, everything is actually okay. There might be challenges to address, things to do, problems to solve, but in this immediate moment, you're breathing, you're alive, you have consciousness, you're aware. That's enough, that's everything. From this place of present moment awareness, you can take appropriate action without anxiety. You can address problems without being overwhelmed by them. You can live fully without being burdened by time. The principle of acceptance is central to Alan's teaching on peace, and it's crucial to understand what he means by this because it's often misunderstood. Acceptance is often confused with fatalism or passivity, but it's actually something quite different, something far more powerful and liberating. Acceptance means acknowledging reality as it is right now, without mental resistance, without insisting that it should be different before you can be at peace. It doesn't mean you like everything that's happening or that you approve of it or that you won't work to change things or that you're giving up. It means you're not adding unnecessary suffering by fighting against what already is, by arguing with reality, by creating internal friction through resistance. When something has already happened, when a circumstance already exists, resistance doesn't change it, it just creates internal suffering, it just makes you miserable. You can acknowledge what is while simultaneously taking action to improve it, and this is actually the most effective approach. This combination of acceptance and appropriate action is the hallmark of wisdom, the sign of someone who has learned to work with life rather than against it. The person who has achieved this doesn't waste energy arguing with reality, doesn't create elaborate stories about how things shouldn't be as they are, doesn't make themselves miserable over circumstances they can't immediately change. They accept what is, they extract any lessons or opportunities present in the situation, and they take whatever action is appropriate from a place of peace and clarity rather than panic and resistance. Alan discusses the profound transformation that occurs when you practice forgiveness, both of others and of yourself, and this might be one of the most healing teachings in the entire book. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, like stabbing yourself with a knife and hoping someone else feels the pain. When you hold resentment, grudges, or bitterness towards someone who has wronged you, when you rehearse their offense over and over in your mind, when you fantasize about revenge or justice, you think you're punishing them but you're actually punishing yourself. You're keeping yourself imprisoned in the past, allowing someone who may have hurt you years ago, someone who might not even remember you or think about you at all, to continue hurting you every single day through your own thoughts, through your own inability to let go. Forgiveness isn't saying that what happened was okay or excusing harmful behavior or pretending you weren't hurt or letting someone continue to harm you. It's releasing yourself from the prison of resentment, from the chains that bind you to the past. It's deciding that your peace is more important than your right to be angry, that your freedom is more valuable than your need for revenge. It's recognizing that everyone, including the person who hurt you, is operating from their own level of consciousness, doing the best they can with the awareness they have, acting from their own wounds and limitations. When you forgive, you don't change the past remains exactly as it was, but you liberate your present and future, you free yourself to move forward unburdened. Similarly, and perhaps even more importantly, you must practice self-forgiveness, because many people are far harsher on themselves than they would ever be on anyone else. Many people are their own harshest critics, carrying guilt and shame about past mistakes, beating themselves up endlessly for things they wish they had done differently, unable to move past their failures and regrets. This self-condemnation creates tremendous inner suffering and blocks your ability to grow and change, because how can you become someone new if you're constantly defining yourself by your past mistakes? Alan encourages you to acknowledge past mistakes honestly, to look at them clearly without denial, to extract the lessons they offer, to make amends where possible, and then to release yourself from the prison of guilt. You cannot change the past. No amount of guilt or shame or self-punishment will alter what happened, but you can choose who you're going to be from this moment forward. You can choose to learn and grow and become better. The book addresses the powerful principle of overcoming evil with good, and this teaching is absolutely revolutionary, completely counter to how most people operate. When you encounter negativity, whether in other people or in circumstances, you have two fundamental choices in how you respond. You can respond with more negativity, meeting anger with anger, cruelty with cruelty, hate with hate, creating a vicious cycle that spirals downward, escalating the conflict and making everything worse. Or you can respond with positivity, meeting negativity with love, responding to cruelty with kindness, answering hate with compassion, breaking the cycle and introducing a new energy into the situation. Most people reflexively match negativity with negativity. It's the default response, the automatic reaction. Someone is rude to them, they're rude back. Someone wrongs them, they seek revenge. Someone speaks ill of them, they speak ill in return. Someone hurts them, they want to hurt back. This is the way of the world, and it leads to endless conflict and suffering, to escalating cycles of retaliation and revenge. Alan teaches a higher way, a more powerful approach, the way of returning good for evil, love for hate, kindness for cruelty. This isn't weakness, it's the highest form of strength. It takes no strength to be mean to someone who's mean to you. That's easy. That's what everyone does. That's the path of least resistance. It takes tremendous strength to remain loving and kind in the face of negativity, to bless those who curse you, to help those who harm you, to maintain your peace when someone is trying to disturb it. When you practice this, when you refuse to participate in the negative cycle, you not only maintain your own inner peace but you often transform the other person as well, because your refusal to participate in negativity disrupts their expectations, confuses their attack, and opens a door for something different to emerge. People don't know how to respond when you meet their anger with calmness, their cruelty with kindness, because it's so unexpected, so contrary to how the world usually works. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse or refusing to establish boundaries or letting people harm you continuously. You can stand up for yourself, protect yourself, remove yourself from harmful situations, and establish clear boundaries, all while still maintaining inner peace and goodwill toward the other person. The key is that your actions come from strength and wisdom rather than from reactive anger and a desire for revenge. You do what's right because it's right, because it's aligned with your values, not to hurt anyone or because you're controlled by emotion, not because you're trying to get even or make them suffer. Alan explores the deep relationship between suffering and growth, revealing that much of human suffering serves a purpose in the grand design of life. It's not meaningless or random. Suffering is often the universe's way of teaching us lessons we need to learn, showing us areas where we need to grow, revealing where our thinking is misaligned with truth, pushing us toward transformation we wouldn't choose voluntarily. When you touch a hot stove, the pain teaches you not to do it again. It's feedback, it's information, it's protection. Similarly, emotional and spiritual pain teaches you valuable lessons if you're willing to learn from it rather than just complaining about it, rather than just asking, "Why me?" With victim consciousness, he observes that different people respond to suffering in dramatically different ways, and this response determines whether suffering destroys them or transforms them. Some people become bitter, hardened, angry at the world, cynical and closed, convinced that life is unfair and meaningless and that they're victims of cruel fate. Others use their suffering as a catalyst for tremendous growth and transformation, as fuel for their evolution. They emerge from difficulty stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more grateful, more alive than they were before. The difference isn't in the suffering itself. Everyone suffers. Life guarantees that. The difference is in the attitude toward the suffering and the lessons extracted from it, the meaning given to it, the use made of it. Alan encourages you to view every difficulty as a teacher, every problem as an opportunity in disguise, every painful experience as preparation for something greater that's coming. When you adopt this perspective, when you look for the gift in every challenge, suffering loses its power to defeat you. It loses its ability to make you bitter and small. It becomes part of your education, part of your journey toward mastery, part of the process of becoming who you're meant to be. You wouldn't expect to develop physical strength without resistance, without lifting heavy things, without pushing against opposing force, without the muscle being broken down so it can rebuild stronger. Similarly, you develop spiritual and emotional strength through overcoming difficulties, through facing challenges, through persisting through hardship, not by having an easy life free of challenges, not by being protected from every difficulty. The concept of relinquishment is essential to understanding Alan's path to peace, and this is one of the most challenging teachings for modern people to accept and apply. You must relinquish, or let go of, your attachment to specific outcomes, your insistence that things go exactly as you've planned them. This is one of the hardest teachings for most people to accept because we're trained from childhood to set goals, make plans, visualize outcomes, and try to control how things turn out. We're taught that success means making things go your way, bending circumstances to your will, forcing outcomes through effort and determination. Alan isn't saying you shouldn't have goals or take action or work toward what you want. He's saying you shouldn't attach your peace and happiness to things going exactly as you planned. You shouldn't make your well-being dependent on outcomes. Life has a way of unfolding that often doesn't match our expectations, that frequently surprises us, that rarely follows our carefully laid plans. When you're rigidly attached to how things must be, when you have a narrow vision of what success looks like, when you can't be okay unless everything goes exactly your way, you suffer every time reality deviates from your plan, which is almost constantly. But when you hold your goals and preferences lightly, when you do your best while remaining open to outcomes you didn't anticipate, when you trust that there's an intelligence guiding things toward your highest good even when it doesn't look like what you expected, even when it looks like failure or setback, you maintain peace regardless of what happens, you maintain your center regardless of external circumstances. This is what Alan means by aligning your will with the divine will, or with the natural flow of life, with the intelligence that governs the universe. You stop trying to force everything to go your way, stop trying to control every outcome, stop insisting that your limited perspective is the only right way. Instead, you work in harmony with life, you cooperate with the universe rather than fighting against it. You plant your seeds with care and attention, you water them consistently, you do everything you can to help them grow, you give your best effort, but you don't try to make them grow faster by pulling on them, you don't dig them up every day to check if they're growing. You trust the process, you trust the timing, You trust that what's meant for you will come to you when you're ready for it, when the conditions are right. Alan dedicates substantial attention to the power of habit and the importance of building your character through small, consistent actions repeated day after day. Character isn't built through grand gestures or dramatic moments or one-time heroic acts. It's built through what you do consistently every single day, through the small choices you make when no one is watching. Each time you choose a right thought over a wrong one, each time you act with integrity when you could get away with dishonesty, each time you show kindness when you could be indifferent, each time you practice patience when you feel impatient, each time you speak truth when lies would be easier, you're building character, strengthening your inner foundation, creating the person you're becoming. He compares this to building a wall, brick by brick, day by day, action by action. Each right action is another brick in the structure of your character, another piece of the foundation. Over time, these accumulated actions create a strong, stable foundation that can weather any storm, that can support any achievement, that gives you solid ground to stand on. Conversely, each wrong action, each compromise of integrity, each chosen negativity, each broken promise to yourself, is like pulling a brick out of the wall, weakening the structure, creating cracks in the foundation. This is why seemingly small choices matter so much, why it matters what you do when you think it doesn't matter. They're not actually small. They're the building blocks of who you're becoming. They're determining your destiny one choice at a time. The development of self-control is presented as absolutely essential to personal power, as the foundation of all mastery. Self-control means that you govern yourself rather than being governed by impulses, emotions, circumstances, or external influences. The person without self-control is essentially a slave. Even if they appear free externally, they're internally enslaved. They're pushed around by every desire, every mood, every external influence, every impulse that arises. They say things they regret because they can't control their tongue. They do things that harm them because they can't resist temptation. They make choices based on temporary feelings rather than lasting values. They're reactive rather than proactive, responding to stimuli rather than choosing their response deliberately. The person with self-control has trained themselves through practice to pause between stimulus and response, to create space between what happens and how they react, to choose their actions deliberately rather than reacting automatically. They can feel anger but choose not to lash out. They can experience the emotion without being controlled by it. They can feel fear but choose to act courageously anyway. They acknowledge the fear but don't let it dictate their actions. They can feel desire but choose to do what's right over what's merely pleasurable. They're not slaves to every craving. This ability to govern oneself is the foundation of all lasting success and peace because it means you're no longer a victim of your own untrained mind and emotions. You're no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You're no longer controlled by external forces. Alan emphasizes that self-control is developed like a muscle through regular practice, through consistent training. You don't develop physical strength by thinking about it or reading about it. You develop it by exercising, by regular practice. Similarly, self-control isn't developed through understanding alone but through application. You start with small things, manageable challenges. You practice controlling your tongue, choosing to speak kindly even when you want to say something hurtful, biting back the sarcastic comment or the harsh criticism. You practice controlling your appetite, eating moderately when you want to overindulge, stopping before you're stuffed. You practice controlling your temper, remaining calm when you feel provoked, responding thoughtfully rather than reacting emotionally. Each successful practice strengthens your self-control, builds your willpower, makes it easier the next time. Over time, what once required tremendous effort becomes natural and automatic. What once felt like a battle becomes your default response. The book concludes with profound teachings on what Alan calls the realization of prosperity, which brings together all the principles discussed earlier into a comprehensive vision of true success. Prosperity, in Alan's comprehensive understanding, is far more than money or possessions or status. far more than what our culture typically means by success. It's health of body, peace of mind, fulfilling relationships, meaningful work, contribution to others, spiritual connection, and alignment with truth. It's a holistic flourishing of the whole person, body, mind, and spirit, not just accumulation in one area at the expense of others. This prosperity isn't achieved through grasping or struggling or forcing or manipulation, not through schemes or shortcuts or taking advantage of others. It's achieved through becoming the kind of person to whom prosperity naturally flows, through developing what might be called a prosperity consciousness. When you develop a prosperous character, which means thinking abundantly rather than in terms of lack, acting generously rather than selfishly, serving faithfully rather than just taking, maintaining integrity rather than compromising for gain, practicing patience rather than demanding immediate results, cultivating peace rather than anxiety, then prosperity in all its forms gravitates toward you naturally. You don't chase it desperately, you attract it naturally through who you are, through the signal you're broadcasting, through the energy you're emanating. Alan reminds you that the journey from poverty to power is an inside-out transformation, not an outside-in one. This is crucial to understand. You don't change your circumstances first and then change yourself, waiting for external conditions to improve before you improve. You change yourself first, and your circumstances change as a result. They must change because they're reflecting your inner state. You don't wait until you have money to start thinking abundantly. That's backwards. You start thinking abundantly right now, and money comes as a reflection of that consciousness. You don't wait until people treat you well to start treating them well. You treat them well first, and their treatment of you changes in response. You don't wait until you feel peaceful to stop worrying. You stop worrying through practice and discipline, and peace emerges as a result. This book is ultimately about taking radical responsibility for your life, not the kind of responsibility where you blame yourself for everything, where you beat yourself up or feel guilty, but the empowering realization that you have the ability, right now in this very moment, to begin transforming your experience by transforming your thoughts and actions. You're not helpless, you're not a victim, you're not at the mercy of circumstances or other people or the economy or your past. You have within you right now, in this present moment, everything you need to create a life of purpose, peace, and prosperity. The power isn't outside you, it's inside you. It always has been, you just haven't been using it. You've been looking for it in all the wrong places. The principles Alan teaches are simple but not easy, profound but not complicated. They require consistent effort, patient persistence, unwavering faith, and continual vigilance over your thought life. You can't apply them for a week and expect complete transformation. You can't practice them occasionally when you feel like it. They must become your way of life, your constant practice, your moment-by-moment choice. But they work, they absolutely work without exception. Thousands upon thousands of people across more than a century have applied these teachings and experienced profound transformation. People from every background, every circumstance, every level of education and privilege. The question is, will you be one of them? Will you take these timeless truths and make them the foundation of your life? Will you commit to the journey from poverty to power? Now, before you go, before you move on to the next thing, I want to encourage you to do something that will help you on this journey of transformation. If this summary has resonated with you, if you found value in these principles, if something inside you has been awakened by these teachings, if you're committed to transforming your life from poverty to power, then please hit that like button right now, because when you do that, it tells me that this content is serving you. It shows me that you want more content like this, and it helps me continue bringing you more transformative wisdom like this, more life-changing teachings, more tools for personal transformation. And absolutely make sure to subscribe to this channel. Click that subscribe button, because I'm going to be breaking down more life-changing books, more powerful principles, more profound teachings, more tools for personal transformation that you can use to create the life you deserve, the life you're capable of living. Don't just consume this content passively and move on to the next video. Don't let this be entertainment, let it be transformation. Take action on these principles, apply them starting today, make them real in your life through practice and application, and then come back and share your transformation in the comments below so we can celebrate together and inspire others who are on the same path, who are struggling with the same challenges, who need to hear your story. You've been given a gift today. You've been given knowledge, understanding, a roadmap, the awareness that you have the power within you right now to transform your life completely. Now use it, apply it, make it real, starting right now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect, but right now in this very moment. Your journey from poverty to power begins today. Your transformation starts now. Your new life is waiting for you to step into it. Don't wait another moment, begin now, and watch as everything in your life begins to change in response to the changes you're making within.